Hi, everybody. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome. So you may see some very young, fresh faces in the building today. And that because, yes, of course, I'm talking about Michelle here. No, just a little bit younger, Michelle. We have a new A100 class that started this week, so we're thrilled to welcome them. They're not in the room with us here today, but they are here at the State Department and also over at the Foreign Service Institute. We have welcomed this week the 193rd Foreign Service Generalist class on March 19th. 36 officers are in this class, in the A100 training class, over at FSI for the rest of the week. The class includes a number of distinguished veterans and U.S. Armed Forces, former Peace Corps volunteers, and former employees of various government agencies. In the private sector, they've worked as researchers, analysts, students, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and also contractors. Also included are 2 Thomas Pickering Foreign Affairs Fellows, one in the political career track and one in the public diplomacy track. Almost all of the class has postgraduate degrees, and many have worked, studied, or volunteered abroad. The languages spoken by the group include French, Romanian, Swahili, Tagalog, Spanish, Hindi, Czech, Japanese, and, well, there are a whole lot of others that I won't mind. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome to this class, and we look forward to seeing them around, and perhaps we can invite them to a briefing someday, Robert, if they're bored and want to join us. Next, I'd like to mention the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's visit to the United States. We would like to warmly welcome him on his visit to the United States. As you likely saw, the President met with the Crown Prince just a short while ago. Our Deputy Secretary, John Sullivan, was also over at the White House for a lunch in his honor earlier today. Saudi Arabia is a key partner and a longtime friend of the United States. The U.S.-Saudi relationship has evolved and strengthened since 1940, when our 2 countries first established full diplomatic ties. Saudi Arabia's security is a priority for the United States, and we work closely with our Saudi partners to counter the threatening behavior of dangerous actors in the region. The visit provides an important opportunity for discussions on a wide range of regional and bilateral issues. We look forward to further strengthening U.S.-Saudi relationship and advancing our common security and economic priorities. And lastly, I'd like to draw your attention to the ongoing humanitarian crisis taking place in Venezuela. Effective immediately, the United States is increasing its humanitarian assistance to Venezuelans who are in Colombia, who were forced to leave their own country due to the ongoing crisis created by the Maduro regime. USAID is providing a new initial immediate assistance, which totals $2.5 million in partnership with the government of Colombia. That funding is in addition to $36.5 million that the State Department is providing in fiscal years 2017 and 2018 to support the regional humanitarian operations of UNHCR and other international organizations. The operations include assistance for Venezuelans who are now residing outside of their country. We applaud the government and the people of Colombia for their compassion in hosting hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans who fled their country. The United States stands with the hemisphere and democratic nations around the world in support of the Venezuelan people, wherever they may be. We will continue to closely monitor the crisis, and we are aware that UNHCR has issued an appeal for funding, and we are now considering that additional funding. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions.
Thanks.
Hi, Matt.
Hello. Happy Tuesday. Just briefly, very briefly on the A100 class. This is the
Yes.
first of the year, correct?
Yes, it is.
And how many more are planned?
I don't know the answer to that, but we're happy to have the first one, and
But-
if I can find out how many more classes will be announced, I will let you know.
And is, that and any progress made on the strategic hiring, is that still a thing since the Secretary is
Which the hiring,
SHI, the
the hiring freeze, is
No,
that what you mean?
The strategic hiring initiative that was announced by the Deputy Secretaries a couple weeks ago.
And this is where we can bring on people on an
The end of
as-needed,
the-
on
end
an
of the hiring
as-needed basis.
freeze.
I believe
I'm just wondering if
that
there's-
is all ongoing, but I'll double-check
Okay.
the details and
'Cause I
provide them
just
to you.
would like to know if there's any impact that has, if that has any impact on A100 class.
Okay.
Now, let's start.
They've got a
with-
lot of work ahead of them, though.
Oh,
those
I'm sure they
A100
do.
students do.
I'm sure they do. Let's start with Russia, given
Okay.
the fact that I don't believe you guys have said anything yet. This building has not said anything yet about the election over the weekend. What did you make of it?
Yeah. I think I would first draw attention to the fact that it's simply no surprise that Vladimir Putin was reelected and that he remains the leader of Russia. We have talked for a long time here about the clampdown on many of the freedoms that people should enjoy in Russia and have not been able to enjoy. We're watching closely the monitors who are involved in the election, the gold standard of monitors, the OSCE monitors. They have issued a preliminary report on the election. We have no reason to doubt that the report's conclusions are incorrect. We have every reason to believe that the conclusions are correct. I'd like to read for you just an excerpt from their preliminary report. The OSCE ODIHR team noted that the election in Russia took place in an overly controlled legal and political environment marked by continued pressure on critical voices. Restrictions on fundamental freedoms resulted in a lack of genuine competition and an uneven playing field. We saw in the news over the weekend that some people were paid to turn out to vote. We've seen that opposition leaders have been intimidated, jailed, and other things of the sort. So I would just draw us back to the OSCE preliminary report. We will review that report. We'll take a look at their final report when it comes out.
Okay, so just as a little aside, ODIHR, we like to call it ODIR.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Okay.
I tell you, Matt
is-
should be doing this job. What are you
This
doing
is,
sitting down there, Matt?
This is very, this is a bit of a contrast here between what you just said and what was not said at the White House a little while ago, and what was not said in the president's phone call with President Putin, at least according to what the White House said. Does this mean your acceptance of your endorsement of the ODIR assessment? Does that mean that you do not believe that that this election was a free and fair one?
I think that we would agree with the OSCE and its preliminary report. Again, it's preliminary. We've seen all the news that has come out of Russia. I would direct you back to the readout that the White House provided of the president's phone call with Vladimir Putin. Just because you see certain words in a readout does not mean that the call wasn't more comprehensive than the readout that was provided. We've seen that on many occasions at the State Department, where a readout just provides somewhat of a limited scope or description of a phone call.
Right, but I mean, one thing that the president said himself, but also was in the statement, was that he had congratulated President Putin on his victory. Is that something the State Department shares?
You know what? I would say that that's called protocol. And there are many countries from around the world that when someone wins, if you will, an election, that you pick up the phone and you place that phone call. We saw that from Macron. We've seen that from other world leaders who have done the same thing with Vladimir Putin. People call the United States when we when we participate in an election and win an election. So I just say that's standard. Look, there's one thing that we have to do, whether folks like it or not. We have a relationship with the Russian government. That is just a part of the world. That is just simply a reality. That does not mean that we agree with them on everything. That does not mean that we get along on every single issue. We have been very clear about calling them out for their responsibility of the horrific attacks that have continued to take place in eastern Ghouta in Syria, and we hold Russia accountable for that. So I want to be clear that we call out Russia when they are responsible for an action, and we will not hesitate to do so. But the reality is that we are two nuclear powers, two superpowers in this world, and we still have to be able to pick up the phone and have a dialogue and conversation with one another.
That's okay, that's understood. But, you know, the OSCE didn't come out with a damning report about the French presidential election. I don't remember the president calling up President Maduro of Venezuela after he won in what you guys said was a sham election last year. I can't remember any president calling up President Mugabe and saying, congrats on your Zimbabwe election over the course of decades until he was finally ousted. So
well, Matt,
I just don't.
I can give you the phone numbers to reach Angela Merkel, also Macron, and
if you got their cell,
and the President of the United States. You can call them and ask them why those world leaders and others did this as well. The reality is we have to have a relationship whether folks like it or not.
Did you get Chancellor Merkel's number from the NSA
I'll see
someone else?
Very fine. I'll see where I can get
And
it.
just the last thing on this.
Okay.
When she was asked if you guys thought that the election was free and fair, your colleague Sarah Sanders said, "We don't get to dictate how other countries operate."
Mm-hmm.
Does this? I mean, no one is saying that the United States dictates how other countries operate, but you do call them out, and you seem to have called them out here, despite what was not said at the White House. So I'm just wondering, when the human rights reports come out later on this month, potentially, or next month. Is there going to be criticism or a recognition of shortcomings in other countries' elections, regardless of Russia?
Well, that
regardless?
human rights report has not been released just yet. We look forward to releasing it in the coming weeks. We don't have a date for it just yet. It has not been finalized at this point, so I'm not going to preview what's in it. And by the way, it's big, thick, and I haven't taken a look at all the details yet.
You're not removing the United States from criticizing other elections that don't meet international standards, are you?
The State Department, and the State Department does this. We will certainly call out other countries where other countries are responsible for bad actions. That hasn't changed. That doesn't change administration to administration. Leslie, go ahead.
By the president calling and congratulating President Putin, was he actually saying that he then accepts that he is the new leader of Russia?
As you know, I'm not over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm right here. So I'd have to refer you to the White House for that. I was not on the call. I don't know the tone. I don't know what was said in the call beyond what was released in the readout, and knowing that they also addressed some other matters such as Syria and other things that were not included in the readout.
Right. Has there been anything from this department to the Russian government as far as reaching out and saying, that you don't necessarily agree with?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure our embassy has had contact with the government, I would imagine, but I don't have anything specific to provide you.
And then I have a follow-up. So if the congratulatory phone call to President Putin from Donald Trump accepts that he is the new president, do you expect, and also this was the same week that the U.S. Today's Wednesday, I think it was Friday, where the U.S. added sanctions against Russian officials.
That was last week, yeah.
Correct.
Last Thursday.
Correct. Do you expect President Putin to soften his stance towards U.S. Do you expect President Putin to be less aggressive towards the U.S. now, or do you see the U.S. continuing to up its pressure on Russia through sanctions?
Well, sanctions remain a tool in the toolkit of the United States and many other countries. It's something that we don't hesitate to use, whether it's sanctions related to CATSA. That's what was announced last week. We don't preview our sanctions, but keep an eye on what will be coming forward in the coming weeks and months with regard to the United States and Russia. We have put sanctions in place as a result of Russia's activities in Ukraine. We, as many of you will recall, kicked out diplomats last year, or not that long ago. We also shuttered some of their buildings here in the United States, to much criticism from many in the press who accused us of being overly aggressive in asking the Russians to leave and in closing down some of those buildings. So we will take those actions and won't hesitate to take those actions when they're necessary, and we believe they're correct to do so.
Speaking of holding Russia accountable, how would you describe the process as it stands right now for punishing or taking action against Russia for the spy poisoning?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How would you describe where the process is right now in terms of looking at possibly taking action against Russia after the poisoning in the UK?
I think I just addressed that with Leslie. Let me back up for just a minute and say we stand firmly by our ally, firmly by the Brits. We have every reason to believe their accounting and their concerns, as do many other countries as well, about what took place against the gentleman living in the UK. So you saw the statement that was put out by the EU. NATO put out a statement as well, as did the Quad. So many other countries share our tremendous concerns about this activity that Russia took against this individual and his daughter living in the United Kingdom. So we understand and support what the British government has chosen to do in terms of kicking out the Russian diplomats from its country. As I just said to Leslie a minute ago, we're not going to preview some of our activities, but we are watching closely and we may be taking action.
Okay, and because the U.S. at this point believes the UK's assessment, has no reason to disbelieve it, how does that make Russia any different from, say, North Korea, which has now been designated a state sponsor of terror for a very similar assassination?
Right. We covered this last week. You may recall that under the chemical weapons treaty, that North Korea was determined to be out of compliance with that treaty obligation. And that is because North Korea used a weapon, a chemical agent against Kim Jong-un's, I always forget, half-brother, stepbrother, half-brother, thank you. They used that. It was not something that was put in place right away, sanctions against North Korea. So some of that can take some time. We evaluate, we assess, and then we put in place sanctions. I'm not going to rule out that that won't happen in the future. Okay. Hey, Saeed. Hi.
Yes, Russia?
Oh, okay. Saeed, I'll come back to you. Okay. We'll do Saeed next.
Okay.
Hey, Lori.
Hi. Just on Russia, the British Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, has said that over the past decade, Russia has stockpiled nerve agents. It's not some simple, small thing. Do you agree with that assessment that Russia has been stockpiling some significant amount of nerve agents?
You know, I'm not sure that we have a final conclusion on that. We know that Russia has declared some of its stockpiles, but I want to be clear that sometimes countries will not declare everything that they have. This is something that the United States will closely evaluate.
So you don't accept as conclusive the Organization for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons determination that Russia had destroyed everything last fall? That's not a conclusive determination?
Well, no. What I said is declared, and that's the key word, what a country has declared. We believe that they have destroyed their declared stockpile, but whether or not there was something that perhaps was undeclared, that could be a different story. Okay? Saeed.
Yes, I want to go to the Palestinian issue. Do you have any reaction to the speech by Palestinian Authority President Abbas in which he levied a direct insult on the American ambassador?
Yeah, I had a chance to meet with Ambassador Friedman last week and had dinner at his home and spent some time with my colleagues in Tel Aviv and also for a short period of time in Jerusalem. You know, I can say when I saw the comments that came out by Mahmoud Abbas, I mean, you look at that. It's a terrible thing to say about anyone. It's a terrible thing to say about a U.S. official. So comments like that are not only rude, but they're unhelpful. They're unhelpful because this administration would like to see an Israeli and Palestinian peace process. What he said is hampers the ability, we believe, to have the Israelis and Palestinians sit down and have a conversation together to work out a peace process. What they should focus their ire on is the horrific situation that has been unfolding for residents in Gaza. You and I have talked about this on numerous occasions, the difficulties with electricity, with clean water, and all of that. Our colleague Felicia Schwartz back here knows that well since she spent quite a bit of time in Israel lately, which, by the way, can I say congratulations? No, nothing. Okay. All right. Never mind. Disregard that. In any event, so my point is, Saeed, you know, that kind of comment is unhelpful.
Okay. Let me ask you, conversely, what the ambassador said, he said that President Abbas was anti-Semitic for saying what he said about him. Is that tantamount to anti-Semitism?
I haven't seen that part of the comment, but it's certainly not a kind thing that he said.
Okay, and basically the context in which Abbas was talking about what seems to be sort of an encouragement or support for settlement activities in the West Bank by the U.S. ambassador. Are you worried that there is a creeping annexation of the West Bank by the building settlements?
You know, Said, we've talked about this so many times. I want to just hit the play button about settlements. And the president's position on settlements has been clear that we do not believe that unrestrained settlement activity advances the cause for peace or the prospect for peace. And we've made that position clear to the government over there.
So there is an asymmetry between the position of the White House and the position of the American ambassador to Israel?
Look, we are all on the same page with regard to this. That is the administration's policy, and that's what we work on from this building.
And one
okay,
last
and then I'm
thing,
going to, and Saeed, last one, then I'm going to have to move on.
I want to ask you about the young Palestinian teenager, Ahed Tamimi, who is being refused a public trial. She's being tried behind closed doors for slapping Israeli soldiers. Do you have any comment on that? Are you concerned?
I'm certainly aware of her case. You and I have talked about this before. We believe that people should have the right to a fair trial. Beyond that, Saeed, I just have to refer you to the government of Israel for just the details on her particular case. Miss, hi. Remind your name is?
Susanna?
Susanna, hold on one second. Yeah.
No doubt that what was said was offensive and terrible, but I mean, is this administration really in a position to take the moral high ground that it seems to be taking when the President of the United States routinely insults his political opponents, routinely denigrates members of the press and others, and with language that is in some cases harsher than what President Abbas used.
Matt, I think I would go back to one of the main tenets that we support here at the State Department, and that is not only the right to a free press, but also the right to free speech. And I may not like, and others may not like, what Mahmoud Abbas had said about our ambassador. I don't think it's right. As a mom, as a woman, as a citizen of the United States, I don't like hearing that about our ambassador. But we believe also in the right to free speech, and that includes for our president as well.
Okay, so then there won't be any quote-unquote punishment for President Abbas for using his right to free speech?
I'm not aware of any whatsoever.
Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead, sorry, Miss.
So, Heather, a few days ago, 39 senators sent a letter to Acting Secretary John Sullivan in which they stressed their opposition towards Nord Stream 2 and encouraged the administration to utilize all tools at its disposal, including a provision in the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act to prevent construction of the Nord Stream 2. A week before, Russian newspaper Kommersant informed that the U.S. has no appetite for introducing sanctions on Nord Stream 2. Do you think that should the sanctions be introduced, of course, they could have a serious impact on the project and companies which are engaged in construction and financing of the projects like Nord Stream 2 or Turkish Stream 2?
Sure, so one of the things you're talking about is CATSA. And at the State Department, we've spent a lot of time speaking with our partners and allies in other countries overseas to explain to them the ramifications of CATSA and how an individual or a company or a country could run afoul against CATSA and fall into sanctions. So in general, as a general matter, as you all know, we don't tend to comment on sanctions actions, but we've been clear that firms that work in the Russian energy export pipeline sector could, if they engage in that kind of business, they could expose themselves to sanctions under CATSA. As many people know, we oppose the Nord Stream 2 project. The United States government does. We believe that the Nord Stream 2 project would undermine Europe's overall energy security and stability. It would provide Russia another tool to pressure European countries, especially countries such as Ukraine. We've seen that what Russia has done in the past when they've turned off the pipeline in the middle of winter, causing some families to not have heat, not have the oil that they need to stay warm or cook their food, and we think that that is simply wrong. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Rich, hi.
Hi, Heather. Just a quick one on Pakistan. Has Pakistan come any closer to satisfying the conditions the United States has laid out to unfreeze the aid that was frozen? Any progress update on that relationship?
Sure. So we made an announcement, I believe it was late last year. My days get a little confused sometimes, about that freeze in the foreign military assistance for Pakistan. One of the things that the president has called for in his South Asia strategy is for Pakistan to take on greater responsibility for cracking down on terror groups. And we've certainly seen Pakistan take some positive steps in the right direction, but a lot more needs to be done in terms of Pakistan cracking down not just on the Taliban, but the Haqqani network and other terror networks as well. Vice President Mike Pence met with the Prime Minister Abbasi of Pakistan just on Friday of last week. They talked about the overall South Asia strategy, the administration's South Asia strategy, and that's one of the things that the Vice President addressed with him. He said, the government of Pakistan has to do more to address the continued presence of terrorism in Pakistan. There's a lot more that they can do, but they can also play a critical role in with the Taliban and getting the Taliban to come to the table in Pakistan.
So encouraged by some steps, and what you're saying, the improvement that has to specifically do with terror networks?
That is one of the key points, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, Jenny.
Hi. Thank you very much. North Korea, two questions for North Korea. Quick question. Did you get any signal that North Korea has decided to release the U.S. detainees?
I don't have anything for you on that. You know that the American citizens who are being held all around the world remains one of the top priorities of this administration. When the president first came into office, that was something that he directed the State Department to do, to best oversee the welfare, the care, and bringing home of American citizens who are being held up overseas. We do have Americans there. You all know that, but I don't have anything new for you on that.
Optimistic or pessimistic signal from Lee Hong-ho talked with the Swedish ambassador.
We don't have anything on that. We were not a part of those talks in Sweden. Alicia, do you have Alicia, I know you want to get a question in earlier rather than later. Do you have anything today?
Actually, just following up on that,
Okay.
Ambassador Yoon on CNN last week said that he had reached out to the North Koreans and urged them to release the Americans. Was that a message that was coordinated with the State Department?
Not that I'm aware of. If he did, I have no confirmation of him actually doing that. I saw part of the report that you're referencing, but I just don't have any confirmation as to whether or not he did that. We certainly hope that our people would be able to come home, though.
He also said that he would work for this administration again if asked. Is that at all being considered?
Not that I'm aware of. We have our colleagues firmly in place, and they are doing a great job. And we are pleased to have Mark Lampert having picked up Ambassador Yoon's responsibilities, and also Susan Thornton and others taking on that role. So they're working hard on that portfolio. Hey. Yes.
Clarify something. There was a news report from MBC TV in Seoul, so South Korean media, that Pyongyang and Washington were working on an agreement to release the 3 U.S. citizens held there. So can you confirm that that report is incorrect?
A bunch of you emailed me about that over the weekend, and I think that's just purely speculation at this point. We would love to have our American citizens brought home, a huge priority for this administration, but as far as we're concerned, there's nothing underway. We would, however, though, I want to be clear about how much we'd like our people to come home.
Sorry,
Okay.
has Mark actually taken over that job?
Not officially, but he's handling that portfolio, as is Susan Thornton. All right. Dave, hi.
Hi. The State Department Global Engagement Center has a contract with a British company, Strategic Communications Laboratories, to provide support to their the GEC stuff, the kind of propaganda effort. SCL Limited has been kicked off the Facebook platform because it's the parent company of Cambridge Analytica. Can it continue to do its work without access to the Facebook platform? And do you share the concerns that Facebook has that it's been misusing user data?
So I'm certainly aware of that report. What our relationship with that company, the Global Engagement Center, entered in a contract with Strategic Communications Laboratories. That is a division or a sister company of this Cambridge Analytica. The State Department has never worked with Cambridge Analytica, so I want to make that clear. The type of work that they have done for the Global Engagement Center is not related to social media. We do not take social media information. The way that we have engaged them is we have hired them overseas in other countries to conduct in-person interviews. Part of the portfolio that they have handled for us is the de-radicalization, essentially, of people who would be interested in joining ISIS. So the company has engaged with people who have either left the battlefield or people who might be primed for joining groups of that nature, and we've gotten information from them and talked with them about it. So it's not a social media-based thing.
Okay, and it is in the social media that they're accused of unethical practices, but they have been accused of unethical practices. Do you have any concerns about them as a company?
Look, it's not my place to weigh in on what this company is alleged to have done in a space that we have not engaged them. They've done that work with other companies, other entities that we have not been a part of. We engaged them in a very specific way to interview people who we thought were at risk as a part of our way of, retraining people's minds or getting people to not jump into terrorism.
The contract was a year long, and it was signed in February, so it ought to have expired. Has it continued, or has it been renewed?
As far as I know, the contract was signed in 2016, in November of 2016. I believe that contract has not expired just yet. Hold on, let me see what I have in here. Yeah, so the contract was signed in November 2016. I believe they're putting together their final reports at this time. And we just always closely review our contracts as they go forward.
So in other words, this contract was signed by the previous administration?
That is correct.
How did they find those people that they were were interviewing?
I don't know. And I'm not sure that we would even give the specifics because some of this would probably fall under sensitive information about the countries in which some of these people were operating.
The reason I asked is because when I did the article about the Global Engagement Center a few weeks ago,
Okay.
they talked about a very similar project that actually used Facebook to get in touch with those people.
I'm not aware of that then.
So was this the
So
first time?
would that have been a different project?
I'm not aware of that. What you just referenced, that's the first I've heard of it. Okay.
So was this the first time that the State Department or a State Department branch has hired this company, SCL, or any of its
My colleagues
subsidiaries?
who predate me here at the State Department have told me that we have hired or have worked with SCL in the past.
doing?
That I'm not sure. I think similar kinds of programs in the past.
And,
And I know that many other governments work with them as well. It's not just the United States government. I believe the Brits work with them and other countries.
given the success, if you will, questionable legal or whatever that their other companies seem to have had with social media, one might wonder why social media wasn't involved. They seem to be good at doing that, whether it's...
Matt, I'm sorry. I wasn't here at the time. I don't have any information on why the decision was made back in November 2016 to engage them in this kind of fashion and not in a social media, have them work on social media.
Last thing, very briefly, can you explain how it is that seems to, if this contract was in fact signed in November 2016, was there confusion that this contract was actually signed in February of 2017?
I don't know.
That's right. It's on a government contracting website. Defense One found it yesterday.
Okay.
And it said...
Robert, do you have anything more on that?
I think usually in a contract you have a beginning work period, and I think that beginning of the work period was defined as February 2017.
Okay.
But the agreement to engage that contract was made in November 2016.
So it was okay, is that typical for maybe I should get into government
I think
contracting?
I'm going to have to
You
learn
had
more
three-
about
they
how
were getting
government
paid for 3
contracting
months
works.
without doing any work?
So your period of work began on February, so your payments began in February.
All right.
Okay. Anything more on that for you, we'll let you know. Okay? Go ahead.
Today, the Turkish presidential spokesperson Kalin reiterated that U.S. and Turkey have reached an agreement over Manbij. And he said the implementation of Manbij deal would be delayed for a couple of weeks until the new secretary takes over.
Well, that's funny because no agreement has been reached. All right. We're going to have to wrap it up shortly. Pardon me? Hi.
Earlier in your discussion with Matt about the U.S. doesn't dictate to other countries. It's the 15th anniversary of the Iraq War. And
I don't think that I said to Matt that we don't dictate to other countries.
It might have been him. I wasn't sure.
I think Matt said that.
It's hard to
I
tell.
was quoting these
the
White House spokeswoman.
Should the U.S. apologize for regime change operations, for meddling in elections in multiple countries through many means over the years?
That is a big question. You're asking me about the entire history of the United States. Should we apologize? That's the question?
Well, let's
should we
start with the
apologize
Iraq
for
War.
our government all around the world?
No.
I think that the United States government
are
does
you asking
far
me
more good than we ever do bad. And certain people in the United States and in other countries have a look or have the perspective that America does more harm than good. I'm the kind of American that looks at it from the other way around. We do far more good.
Most Americans are opposed to the Iraq War. Should the U.S. government apologize for things that were put out by that podium, people who are in this administration, who fabricated information to start the Iraq War?
Look, I get what you're getting at. You want to be snarky and take a look back.
No,
No, hold on.
I
Take
want
a
to get real.
Okay, and take a look back
I want to get
at the
real.
past 15 years. And Iraq is certainly a country that has been through a lot. I've been to Iraq. Many of you have been to Iraq in covering what has taken place there. Okay,
I'm being anything but snarky.
Let me finish. Okay, they've faced a lot of challenges. Right now, the most significant challenge there is ISIS, and the United States remains there at the invitation of the Iraqi government to fight and take on ISIS. I want to commend the Iraqi government for something, and that is for the past 15 years that they have had a history of free and fair elections over 15 years. That is remarkable given where they were under the regime of Saddam Hussein. I recall having met Iraqis at that time, and this dates back to 2004, 2005, and certainly everyone that I had talked to, an Iraqi citizen, had a family member that was killed in some sort of horrific fashion or disappeared and was never heard from again. I mean, that is something that as an American, when you start talking to citizens and that is their experience, that is something that's very difficult for the average American to understand, because that is simply the way of life there. The United States has a strong relationship with the government of Iraq. I'm going to look forward from this podium in this room. We have a good relationship with the government of Iraq and not going to look back at this point. Okay?
So no responsibility for
Right,
the
go right ahead.
bloodshed,
Go right ahead.
Or anything else?
Question on Turkey, and that is that the Turks, in addition to the question of Manbij, they've also said that talks are about to resume very shortly. Is that true? Do you have a date for talks?
We do not have anything to announce at this time.
Do the administration have a public view on this vote that's supposed to happen later today on the Hill about Yemen?
So I'm certainly aware of that vote taking place as it pertains to Saudi Arabia. You know, we typically don't comment on pending legislation or voting action taking place in Congress, but after the fact, if we have something for you on that, I'll let you know.
That's not true. You take positions on there's statements of administration policy on proposed legislation on almost every single bill.
That's not true, Matt,
Yeah,
because I punt to Congress quite often when it comes to those types of things. So I would just refer you back to Congress, okay? All right, thanks, everybody. We got to go.